Alright, so I got my grounding strap on. That way I don't have to worry about building up any static charge and shocking the card. That's a big deal. Now, where did I put that little screwdriver? I lost my screwdriver. That's kind of embarrassing. It's just right here. Not that screwdriver. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. First thing first, whenever you're working with sensitive electronics, you should always have a static wrist strap on. This is connected to the, on the back of my case, there's a hanger for hanging a water tank. I just have the clip to the computer case, and since the computer is on, I'm grounded. So I ain't got to worry about shocking my card to death. I'm going to need a little bit of heatsink compound, thermal compound. I like Arctic Silver 5 personally. And a jeweler's screwdriver. This is a bigger size Phillips, but these screws are way too big for a regular screwdriver to work on. And those little screwdrivers like these that are the number one, the angle here is just off in such a way that you'll just end up stripping out the heads. So let's get started. Now the heatsink and cover also reinforce the body of the card, the PCB here, the circuit board, to keep it straight and rigid, to keep it from sagging over time. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 screws that screw directly to the frame that holds the heatsink. Then there's another 8 that hold the heatsink in place. So I'm going to start removing these screws. It's a good idea to keep track of where the screws came from so you can put them back in the right holes. Now in this case that's not really going to be necessary, because since I'm changing out the heatsink, I'm not going to reutilize these screws for the functioning card. However, I tend to be a bit of a pack rat, so I'm going to keep the covers and the original heatsinks. I'm just going to put the screws back in where they belong when I'm done. These 3 screws hold the fan. As I said before, I'm keeping the fan in place, so I don't need to take those out. Now these screws, I may try to see if I can reuse these with a Waterblock. These screws, as you should be able to tell by the spring on them, are the primary tension slash mounting screws for the heatsink. Here's that back plate. It's just a thin piece of aluminum that's used as a heat spreader. And you can see that these chips have gotten quite hot by the discoloration on the inside of the plate. Now for the big reveal. If I can get those off. There we go. And there's what the inside looks like of the. And wow, that's dry. And let's check the fit. I don't think this is going to fit right on here. I think I'm going to do one more step. Yep, one more step. I'm going to have to delid this GPU in order for this to make contact with the board so I can mount this properly. Usually you'd have on the GeForce cards, you don't have this block right here. That's the lid. You just have a piece here that is used to help mount your heatsink to it. This is the tricky part. And you gotta be careful that you don't break off any of these or any of those that might be on the die. Some people have reported these things just practically falling off. This one seems to be on here pretty good. We got this shit stuck on here good. Okay, messing thing up good. Okay, finally got it off. And that's what's underneath. I did accidentally miss up a couple pins over here. However, that one wasn't connected to anything, and that one says a jumper, so I think it'll be fine. We'll see though. But this is the GPU lid. And here's the GPU. So, and here you see the nice and shiny die. Okay, now let's test the fit again. And it looks like, unfortunately, a couple of these are in the way of this properly mounting, which means I'm going to have to use the GPU lid and make it work. There we go. And now we have contact with the GPU. Question's going to be whether or not I can mount this thing. Now, I'm not overly worried about the VRAMs. They are GDDR5 and are supposed to be able to handle a fair amount of heat. Okay, so I got a bit of an issue here. The screws that came with this heatsink are way too small. And I can't properly mount it, which means delidding the GPU, simply because this stuff right here gets in the way. So, looks like I'm stuck with having to use the universal method after all. And depending on how I position the cards in there, I might be able to make that work without much issue. Okay, where's that? And there we have it. So I'm having to use the universal GPU water block simply because a few of the items, such as these right here and this chip right here, are like just in the way of it sitting down properly. So here we are. Now, for the RAM chips, since this side no longer has its heatsink, You have these little bad boys. Kind of a little thermal adhesive on them. Just take the cover off. There we go. And stick. Center of the chip preferred, but it's really just to ensure these things don't get overly hot. Oh, I guess maybe I should get some alcohol for this. Having to do this because obviously the way I wiped it down before didn't get all the junk off the chips. Now, from what I've read, this is not absolutely necessary, but I'm more inclined to do it simply because of how hot this card runs. And these are a little too tall for right in here, so those might have to do without anyways. Here we go. So, just waiting for the rest of the components to come in for the cooling loop. And then I'm going to try this bad boy out. Hopefully when I delayed the GPU I didn't mess up these connectors over here where it was beyond use. We will find out though. And hey, that's what this whole thing is about. It's a experience, learning, experimenting, seeing if I can figure things out. Until next time.